just get familiar. If you don't know anybody, you can do a Google search, figure out what are the tools and at least know what they're called, I worked with a lady one time and she said when she's an apprentice, they hiked up the top of the stairs and the guy said, "Hey, can you get me a crescent wrench out of the tool bag?" She goes, "I didn't know what it was. I was looking for something that looked like a crescent roll." And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, pretty easy to educate yourself on that sort of thing. But as far as, the trade, they're going to teach you what you need to know. Mm-hmm. But, you don't want to go in like not knowing anything.
Yeah.
So just get familiar with tools.
Yeah.
Like basic hand tools. I mean, to me, it's like, well, every dude knows that. But no, not necessarily. That's just how I was raised.
Right. Exactly. Same. All right, welcome to episode 40 of the Blue Collar Edu podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to call this a shop talk. This isn't a CTQ. It's me and my pops here. Made a trip up to Washington to go visit them for the weekend for the 4th of July. And I've wanted to get my dad on a podcast for a long time. He's just kind of camera shy. I don't blame him. But he's my father. He's raised me. He's given me all the values and morals and the hard work, discipline that I've had in my life so far. So, Dad, welcome to the podcast.
You got to give Mom some credit too.
Well, I'll give Mom some credit for sure, 100%. So, Dad, I know your story, and you're a journeyman pipe fitter. You've worked at the lumber paper mill for quite a few years. Let's just kind of give the audience, your story, kind of your upbringing. You're born July 17th, 1969, right? And right here in Longview, Washington.
That's right. Be 56 in a few days. Like Austin said, born and raised here in Longview, Washington, small town, Southwest Washington. Pretty much lived on this whole hill my whole life. School here, did a couple years college.
What'd you go to college for?
Machinist. Well, also, I guess it was for part of my Boilermaker's apprenticeship.
Oh, okay.
Some of the classes ran through a local community college. Yeah, as a kid, grew up in the woods pretty much. Small farm. My dad worked in the mills for Weyerhaeuser Company. Retired from there. Had a small hobby farm. So, youngest of 12, had 8 sisters. One has passed away, 3 brothers. Yeah, so grew up, like I said, small hobby farm.
What year did you graduate high school?
What's that?
What year did you graduate high school?
1987. So, yeah, 80s, big hair, Levi's, flannel,
So something I do want to talk about is like in high school, when you went through high school, Mark Morris High School, same high school I went to.
Yeah.
They had shop class, right?
Oh, yeah.
What did that shop class look like back in the 80s versus what I know it is now? And it's one of the only schools in the state of Washington that still has a shop class, it's very rare. It's shop classes are missing and they're gone from high schools. But back in the 80s, in that time, your time in high school, like what did the shop class look like?
Well, a lot of corking off actually. We had metal shop, wood shop, small gas engine repair, a fiberglass class where I never did take. Would have been pretty cool because if you did advanced, actually they call it plastics, I think. If you did advanced, you could build a canoe. I really wanted to make a fiberglass canoe, but shop was a big thing when I was in school. Actually, we had shop class even in middle school from 6th through 8th grade. So, like 8th grade, I think 8th grade was the first year you could take like a metal shop. 7th grade, I think we did wood shop. 6th grade did some like mechanical drawing type. So they really started younger then, and I think it was really good because there's several guys that I graduated with that ended up going into the trades, and I think that that I know, and a few of them work at the mill where I work. So they had that early exposure, I suppose, to shop class and just to see what it's like. But yeah, as far as what did it look like, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I'm just saying like what they had in shop class, because like now they have like the wood shop, learning using a sawmill and a chop saw and a sander and things like that. And they have welding and metal shop, and I think they have a few other things now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the
CNC
CNC
stuff,
and things like that. But you guys had logging. You guys had more variety when it came to the shop class.
Yeah, more. I guess logging wouldn't be shop, but what would you call that? Just is that vocation? I don't know, what is it called?
But this town is like, this is a logging town.
Yeah. It was
so
logging town,
it was like
town. Right.
That's a big industry, is logging, mill town. But it's like that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right. I think the logging program shut down maybe a few years after I had it. So my senior year in high school, I took a logging class with Mr. Smith. Man, hard luck for that guy. But logging's dangerous, so a lot of discipline in that class. It was good for some of the kids that came through that maybe didn't grow up with a lot of discipline, single parent family. Stu, he kept them in line. Yeah. But shout out to Stuart Smith, great guy, good logging teacher. I learned that I probably didn't want to log for a living. My brothers did. It was a big, like Austin said, big thing in this community. Logging, lumber mills, paper mills.
It's hard work.
I've
never done it.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Like, it's statistically top 3 most dangerous, like, you could call blue collar job out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, the logging here in the Pacific Northwest is, I think, probably more rugged or more dangerous than like other places in the Midwest or something.
Yeah, very rugged country.
Very rugged country. Yeah. So the statistics of the numbers are lower than, of course, like a roofing or any other trade, because there's so many more people in those other trades. Yeah. But like logging there's a reason I never got into it. It's
they
brutal.
Probably have here that they wouldn't, let's say in the Midwest, like the high lead logging with the towers and high angle logging stuff, any loggers out there probably like cringing with my terminology, but it's dangerous, hard work. Shout out to them guys too, because that's we still need them, and that landscape has changed a lot over the years.
But it's crazy when you think about like the trades as a whole in general, is how interconnected they can be, and how a lot of trades can flow downhill from one trade. Like logging, without loggers, without the trees, we don't have construction.
Right.
Especially, with things that are built out of wood structures like they shop, or like paper mills. Like there's no paper mill unless you have wood to make paper cardboard out of.
Right.
Right. So, and then it's like, you look at linemen, it's like, well, you don't have electricity in your house or your business unless there's a lineman to transport, to build the lines. But then you don't have electricity unless you don't have the generating systems.
Right.
So it's really kind of crazy when you look at
the network for your poles.
Well, exactly. So then it's like loggers, I guess, are just like, without loggers, we don't really have anything. I think about it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of things we use is because of pulp, because of wood. I didn't really think about that, but
yeah.
Yeah. So graduating high school in '87, what did you do after that? You and Mom got married when?
I was 22, so
was about 4 years after.
Yeah. So right out of high school, I went to work for a company that made wooden cable spools for Reynolds and Alcoa and other companies. Those were the two major ones. I worked like a year of production. Meaning stacking boards and building the cable spools. I'm like, man, this is kind of fun, but I don't want to do this. And
like, what kind of trade would that be? Was it like?
That wasn't like a trade.
Yeah, was it? I guess what industry was that for?
That was for the cable companies, like
okay.
Not like like steel cable. So it was Bethlehem wire rope. Reynolds aluminum, they had the aluminum cable, Alcoa, which was, I think, or Alcoa maybe owned Reynolds. I'm not sure how that all worked, but so yeah, and cable, like for logging industry, they all come on those cable spools. So we built the wooden cable spools, or
Okay.
reels we called them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worked there. I worked production for a year, and my oldest brother, Lauren, he was in maintenance there, and I really wanted to get into maintenance because even from a young age, I was always in the shop, dinking around, building this, building that. Nothing like my older brothers, but still, I had an interest in building things.
So I mean, it like a career in the trades is like you grew up, doing things with your hands anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you enjoy doing that stuff. You enjoy tinkering, building things, working on things anyway. So I think that just growing up that way is obviously shaped why you're a pipe fitter, why you do the job
Yeah.
you do now for the last so many years. I mean, honestly, right out of high school and college was part of it, but like that was for boiler. We can get into that a little bit
Yeah.
more, but so yeah. Anyways, you work at that place for how long?
So I worked a year in production, and it was a small company. So the advantage of a small company is, I don't know, you have access to the owner. So I went and talked to the owner and said, hey, really interested in getting into maintenance down here if that's possible. And of course, he knew my brother Lauren, and my brother Lauren was like, can build or fix anything.
That's true.
It's just, it's nuts.
His brother Lauren, my uncle, just lives right up the hill, like 150 yards. He's probably one of the smartest individuals. He can literally build anything, and just off the top of his head. Like he's not book smart. He's street smart. Like you can just tell him like, hey, I'm looking for this and to build this, and like he can do it. He's one of the smartest individuals that I know, and it's he's furthest away from going to college and having some sort of degree.
Right. So the owner, he was like, well, yeah, we give you a shot right now. This was in the summertime. We had a summer help kid that was like a helper in maintenance. He said, once he goes back to school, we'll plug you in and see how you do. I thought, wow, big shoes to fill. If they think of anything like my brother, can't hold a candle to him, but I still had the work ethic, and I still had the interest. So yeah, I did that for like 3 years, and unfortunately there was an unfortunate accident with the owner, and he passed away, and the company ended up shutting down. So from there, just like across the street pretty much was a shop had just opened up. They were Boilermakers. So actually one of the shop bosses in that manufacturing specialist company, one of the bosses there in the shop, he's like, hey, maybe I can talk to one of the guys over there at Safe, that was the name of it. They're Boilermakers. Maybe I can hook you up with a job. So I appreciate the guy did. So I wasn't like super outgoing kind of fella. So I talked to somebody, pulled some strings. Next thing you know, I had a job over there. So I started in the Boilermaker apprenticeship. First 6 months I just worked kind of maintenance, helped this guy. His name was Francis. He was kind of reminded me of Lauren. He was just older guy, just super smart, could fix anything, super laid back, never got worked up, like a super good role model, first getting into, a different trade and whatever. But, so yeah, I did like 6 months worth of, like maintenance work. Whenever there'd be a big field job, we'd have to like rewire the welders to the different voltage. Like you go to one mill, it'd be 560 volt. Go to another mill, it's 440, and they were all, so in the back of the machine, you'd have to rewire them, configure them to whatever power.
You were doing that as a Boilermaker in the Boilermaker place, or?
Yeah, well, because I wasn't in an apprenticeship yet, and I was just like, I was a maintenance guy with this Francis, so that was part of our job. Like we would get all the equipment ready for the next field job. I say field job because they had a shop.
Okay.
And then the guys that worked in the shop, it was actually a different local. And I don't remember the numbers, and then there was a field union, a different local, 2 different pay rates, blah, blah, blah. So I started off in the shop as a maintenance guy. So yeah, we would get job boxes all like put together, everything for the next job. We get a job would come in. This is what we need. We need this many grinders. We need this many extension cord. This was air hose, air arc, this much rod, all this. Welders set to this voltage.
So you kind of started at that point, like you started learning it's basically as being a grunt, learning the material, the tools, all that stuff that'll eventually, the next part of the, your career that you get into is like welding and all that stuff. Like you've already learning about the equipment and the things that they use in the industry.
Yeah. So then like on the jobs, I would go out, if I got put out on a field job, or I would go out and work in the tool room. So we had a mobile portable tool room that our guys would come and check out tools. So I worked in a tool room, and I'd drive the crummy or the bus in and out from the gate, haul the guys. That was, you can never do right on that job. You're always leaving someone behind and someone's mad or whatever, but it was a good experience. And then after like 6 months, then there were some openings in apprenticeship. So I got into the apprenticeship, and I worked there like another 3 years, and then it was kind of hit and miss on work, probably maybe the times a little bit. And
this would have been in early 90s?
Yeah, well,
or
like 91, because I think Mom and I had just been married like 6 months, maybe.
It was when you got into the apprenticeship?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, forgot where I was at. Anyways.
Slow time like for 3 years.
Yeah. So the mill there's a few different paper mills in town, lumber mill. One of the mills was Longview Fiber at the time. They were taking applications for production, and Mom was like, "Hey, you should go apply." I'm like, "Nope, I ain't working in the mill."
Was she pregnant? Was she pregnant with Nikki yet?
Yeah, maybe just newly.
Yeah.
Or I want to say, no way. I want to say we had a kid or two by the time I went to. Oh, by the time I went to the mill, we had a couple kids.
Nikki, Josh.
So
she was in nursing school, or was she at a nursing school?
Yeah, no, she started nursing. She was in that before we even started dating or whatever. So, I'm kind of think back here, how that all. Oh, so yeah, she was. Because work was spotty, like insurance, like, do I have insurance? So it was a little stressful with, starting a new family and having a wife, and like, I don't know if I have insurance. So it's like, well, just go apply. So I did. I went there one night. We were really busy at the shop that time, and I was working swing shift from 3 to 11:30. They were taking applications till midnight. So I got off work, cruised over there, just all grubbed out, working in a fab shop. It's black, whatever, just covered. And I was running a burn table, sooty, whatever. I get there, just fill out an app real quick. Like, I don't want to work here anyway, so I just kind of filled it out, tossed it in. Well, I got a call like, I don't know, a couple of weeks later. Hey, we'd like you to come in for some pre-employment testing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not committed yet. I'll go do it. So I went, did the testing. Did good on the testing, which surprised me because I'm not a book smart guy. Was
it like aptitude test, like math or reading comprehension?
Mechanical aptitude.
Yeah, it's very common. Like, I guess for a lot of like union apprenticeships, like IBW or Boilermakers, the UA, like they all have aptitude tests now, and it's kind of weird because it's like, well, a lot of guys who want to get the trades is because they're not good at reading and math. They're good at building things with their hands. But like, especially for the union, there's still that barrier to entry of like, well, you still need to know basic algebra, and the reading comprehension is not that hard. It's just like reading the passage and being like, okay, what does it say in the passage? And you know, it's pretty easy to answer. But the math, even I've been out of high school for 10 years and I was good at math, and even still, I look at some of the algebra equations and I'm like, I think I would struggle because it's timed and stuff too. So
math was not one of my strong subjects. Neither was English or science or shop class. Now,
shop class is awesome.
Somehow anyways, I did okay, and I might add, somewhere before that, I had an interest in the Carpenters Union, and so I went and applied to Carpenters Union, but it was so slow then that I don't even know what number I was on the list to get called up as an apprentice. I got a call like 5 years later. I was already been working at the mill a while, and like looking back, like maybe I should have taken it.
I was gonna ask you when you started at that shop when you got out of high school, what kind of money were you making at? As
like my first job.
Yeah, like entry level at that wire.
I think it was like $6 something an hour.
And then when you went to the Boilermaker place, how much were you making there?
I was like, maybe 10. I mean, it wasn't much. I think journeyman rate in the shop right then was like $16 an hour. If you worked in the
was
field,
that a union gig?
Yeah, it was, but it was like part of the. What would it be? Like part of the shipyards. It was kind of weird the way it was set up, like for the shop, like part of the shipyards. So the wages were lower than like the guys that worked in the field. Mm-hmm. They were making like $20, and that was big money back then.
Yeah, back in
like,
the late 80s.
If I make $20 an hour, I'd be on top of the world.
And then so then you applied, you do the test, aptitude testing, you pass the testing.
Yeah. Yeah, so back to the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I was just trying to.
I know, jumping around, but I'm like, jogging my memory, so like random memories.
It's a long time ago. I mean, I was thinking 30 plus years ago.
So they called me, said, hey, would you like to come in for some pre-employment testing? It'd be like a drug test, and maybe, I don't know if there was any more like written tests going on. I think it was more just like a drug screening. Whatever, so I went and did that, and probably an interview too at the same time. I don't remember if there was an interview separate, but then it was like another week or two went by, and I think I was actually laid off then from the Boilermakers, and they called and offered me a job. Like, hey, here's the job if you want it. It's like production, working in the box plant.
Okay, yes. This wasn't an apprentice.
No. So I had to work some. Oh, you mean at the mill?
This was just in the
just
production.
starting at the mill. Yeah, because back then you had to. All the maintenance people came out of the mill.
Okay.
They didn't hire from outside, so you had to work in the mill first to get into the apprenticeship.
Okay.
Anyway, the guy that interviewed me knew my brother Ray, who had his home business, who I did like dirt work around here.
Yeah.
And anyways, he's like, hey, do you know Ray? I'm like, yeah, it's my brother. Oh, yeah. So they ended up hiring me. Well, so the guy asked me that interviewed me, like, so what would your plans be at the mill? Like, if you got on to mill, why do you want to work here, whatever? And I said, well, my goal is to get into maintenance. I'm not a big production guy, but I realize I got to do what I got to do. It's like, well, your test scores are good enough for maintenance, so you just got to put in your time, and that's the way it worked. As guys retired and openings came up, then you're on the list and probably work just like out in the hall. You're on a list, and once your number comes up, then so I worked like 6 years, 6.5 years in production.
When you started in the mill in production, how much money were you making? 90, whatever, 91, 92, 93, early 90s.
I think it was still like maybe like $12 an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less. It's hard for me to remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's like first 90 days was less, and then you got to, they decided they were going to keep you, then you got a raise. I think it was 90 or maybe 6 months, but yeah, it's probably around $10 an hour, I guess. And I think that was about time Mom graduated from nursing school and started making some shekels herself. So. I mean, she worked the whole time. I mean, Mom's a worker. She was working, going to school, and raising a family.
Raising a family too. So then you worked production for, who'd you say,
like 6 and a half years.
Okay. And then a spot opened up in maintenance.
Yeah, the pipe fitters. So
was that an apprenticeship or was it just okay?
Yeah, everybody was apprenticeship. It didn't matter what experience I had.
Okay.
That maybe just, except it went off your test scores. Like if you had to test high enough on your mechanical aptitude to even be considered, and then it didn't matter. There wasn't an interview process or anything. It had changed over the years. At some points they'd had an interview process, but basically just went off. They figured you were off your mechanical aptitude test, if you scored high enough, then, you could get into the apprenticeship. So, yeah, I started over again. So that was actually like my third apprenticeship. The first one, working in a production place, that was a non-union company. They had their own kind of apprenticeship. That's where I also took some college classes, like machine shop. I took an industrial hydraulics class. These were just like quarter long, so not like real college stuff, but it was at the college.
Yeah.
So they had their own apprenticeship. I was like a year away when the place folded. So then I went to the Boilermakers. I was like a year away till I was a journeyman. So I'm like, shoot, I got 2 incompletes. Hopefully this one pans out. So yeah, here I am, like 30 years later, the mill, 31 years, 25 in maintenance. But
so it took you how long to complete that apprenticeship in the maintenance?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, it was 4 years, all in-house. We could take college courses if we wanted to, but it was overlap. I'd already taken those classes. So it'd been like industrial math, like hydraulic. They would pay for anything related as long as you got at least a C.
Okay.
So, but it was a really good program at the time, really good mentors. You always worked with a journeyman until like your first 2 years, you worked with a journeyman. And then after that, you were considered an intermediate and you could start, doing some jobs on your own. A lot of times you still worked with another person. It's just, people might think, oh, paper mill. I guess I don't know if I specified it was a paper mill, but a pulp and paper. They also had a container plant, box plant. But it's a dangerous place. So depending on where you're at, it's dangerous. People think, oh, paper. Well, yeah, but there's a lot more to it.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts, a lot of chemicals, a lot of dangerous stuff. You got power boilers, which can be, bombs.
Yeah.
So a lot of chemicals that'll just eat your hide off. So dangerous place. So pretty much always worked in pairs.
You got into the pipe fitters apprenticeship in early 90s, right? At the lumber mill. So it took you paper mill. Yeah. Took you 4 years to complete.
Right.
What do you think is the hardest part about being an apprentice? Because you almost completed 2 apprenticeships. So you went through basically 3 apprenticeships, right?
Yeah.
So like in your eyes, what was probably the hardest part about being the apprentice? Being the grunt, the labor, the low man on the totem pole. Yeah,
that's probably the hardest thing. The first 2 weren't so bad because I was younger. The hardest one was the third one because I was starting over again. And I felt like I already had like a fair amount of knowledge.
And you're how old at this point? 20?
Let's see. So I started at the mill, it's like around 25. So I would have been right around 30 when I started.
Okay.
30, 31, somewhere in there. 32, not exactly sure. Could do the math, but I'm not good at math. So, I guess the hardest part of that was just having to start over again. And I was still, there was a lot of older guys. So I was still considered one of the young guys. I was at 30, early 30s, and I was the kid. And just knowing, what my place was, being in the Boilermakers, those guys were rough, They're rough around the edges. A lot of good guys, but, man, I had one that just, he rode me like a circus pony. It's like, I couldn't do anything right. And, you could get mad or whatever, but that didn't work. So you just kept your nose to the grindstone and just did the best you could. And,
do you think he's trying to get under your skin, or his personality he was like that?
Yeah, he would just call you down. It didn't matter what you did. You could do something perfect and he, lousy, whatever. Yeah. Just call you down all the time. No, hey, good job. No, that sucks. Come on, dude. But so the guys at the mill were pretty good. I just had to start over though, and it was still I knew my place, so I just kept my mouth shut, even though a lot of times like I'm seeing things, and they're always like, "Oh yeah, speak up." Like when you speak up, they're like,
See
they
something.
look
say
at you
something.
like, "Hey, you're the apprentice." I'm like, "Yeah." So just kind of, know your place as an apprentice. I know it's hard sometimes. Like sometimes you think you know and you don't.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You
Especially-
think you know and you don't.
Especially for you, you were like basically almost or 30 years old. I think it'd be hard for me. Like I would hate to go through apprenticeship again. Like the lineman apprenticeship was super difficult. Being in my young 20s, even still, but you're dealing with those same kind of personalities and guys who are just like, just ride you all day long. You cannot figure out. I'm like doing everything the best of my ability. I think I'm doing things right, but it's never the right way. It's never for the right way for that guy. It's never fast enough. Blah blah blah. You can never do anything right, and it's like I would never want to go through something like that again. Especially because I know what it's like to have already gone through an apprenticeship, and most apprenticeships are going to be the same when it comes to you're just dealing with the same crowd of people. Whether it's ironworker, lineman, or boilermaker, pipe fitter, it doesn't matter. They're all tradespeople, and I think it would be hard. But I also think if you're married, have kids at 30 years old, you're kind of like, well, I'm doing this. So you I don't know. I think it'd be hard to do it again for me. But then at the same time, if I'm at that stage of my life where like I'm married and have kids, like, hey, this is my only option. Like if there is an option B, like I'm figuring this out. Whether I like these guys or not, like I'm not gonna let it get to me. I'm gonna figure this out. So you've been at the mill now as a pipe fitter 25, how many years?
25.
25 years.
You're
gonna try to retire sometime soon within the next
few years, I hope.
Next few years. It's been a good career. He's been able to raise 7 kids. I'm right in the middle of all of them. I'm 28 now, and youngest Sophie's 22, 23.
21. She's 21, I think.
Early 20s somewhere. I from what I've seen, the mill's taking care of him. His career, the trade is taking care of him. He's got a big, beautiful shop, big, beautiful house, beautiful family. He's on beautiful property. He's got everything he needs. It's like, it's not super glorious, but it's done. It's done the job, right? Like it's
done a job for sure.
People don't really think about it, but like we were saying, beginning is in this town where we grew up, right on the Columbia River, Southwest Washington. Like the biggest industry is that industrial maintenance stuff, logging, paper mills, and it is. So a lot of people here do trades, and that's the environment I grew up in. And my dad's growing up in the country with the shop, watching him work at the mill for so many years ultimately is why why I decided to pursue a trade career too. Like I could have went to college. I was going to go to be an electrical engineer, but then I enjoy working with my hands. I enjoy building things. I couldn't picture myself just sitting at a desk or punching blueprints together or walking. Maybe in the future I could do that, you know what I mean? But at 19, graduating high school, I already just completed high school. I was like, I don't want to do another 4 years of schooling. It just was not entertaining to me at all. And I'm super fortunate, or I'm glad I didn't, because I enjoy being a lineman and the career opportunities that's provided for me and for my family, and the opportunities. It's been an awesome career so far for me. I'm doing it for 8 years now. But I don't know. I think I'm fortunate to grow up with a dad who's taught me a lot of good skills, whether life skills or hands-on skills, and being able to grow up in a shop, I think, has been super cool. And going to high school, I had a shop class, so it's kind of just formed the life I have now. So, Dad, if there's any, I know you're not super in tune with how things work on the outside world when it comes to becoming a pipe fitter, I should say. But if there's anything who someone want to get into a welding trade, pipe fitting, or boiler makers, what would be some hard skills and soft skills that someone could develop? Soft skills being things like having a good attitude, showing up to work on time, and then hard skills being things like being able to read a tape measure or being able to identify different kinds of tools or those sorts of things. What could you give me 3 of each that would be good?
Well, definitely for any career or whatever, is having the right attitude. going in with the right attitude and wanting to work. And when there's nothing going on, if you are in a blue collar scenario, grab a broom. There's always cleanup to do. That's I tell apprentices, like, why are you sitting around?
Well, you got time to lean. You got time to clean.
Sweep the shop. What are you doing?
Yeah.
If we have downtime at times, we're waiting for lockouts, different things. If you're new, because now we hire outside from outside the mill. These guys come in, they're pretty green. I mean, as far as they don't know the mill. The mill's a big place. Like, go out and get familiar with the area. Don't get put yourself in harm's way, but go out and look around and just kind of get familiar with our area. Do stuff that's productive.
Yeah. All right, Dad. So, like, what would be some good hard skills? Being able to read tape measure, like things like that. They want to get to a pipe trade or welding trade.
Yeah, I guess just having some basic tool knowledge. Reading the tape, like you said, good one. Seems like everybody should know that, but I guess maybe a lot of people don't. And yeah, depending on what trade you're looking to get into, maybe some classes at the community college. I think probably relatively inexpensive to see if it's something you even want to do. I take a welding class. They have blueprint layout.
Being able to read blueprints, that could be a good one.
So, or just get familiar. Like you said, I want to get in a pipe fitters union, that trade. Just get familiar. If you don't know anybody, you can do a Google search and figure out what are the tools and at least know what they're called. I worked with a lady one time, and she said when she's an apprentice, they hiked up the top of the stairs, and the guy said, "Hey, can you get me a crescent wrench out of the tool bag?" She goes, "I didn't know what it was. I was looking for something that looked like a crescent roll." And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, pretty easy to educate yourself on that sort of thing. But as far as, the trade, they're going to teach you what you need to know. But, you don't want to go in like not knowing anything.
Yeah.
So just get familiar with tools.
Yeah.
Like basic hand tools. I mean, to me, it's like, well, every dude knows that. But no, not necessarily. That's just how I was raised.
Right. Exactly. Same.
Grew up using tools. So.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, that's no big deal. I mean, that's what the apprenticeship's about. They're going to teach you.
Got to be teachable. Got to be able to learn.
Right. Got to be teachable. You got to be willing to learn. And if you're looking into apprenticeship or whatever, then if that's something you want to do, then obviously I would hope you have that base covered because you're the one searching. You want to do something, so you're going to be teachable. You're receptive at that point, I would think. So. Yep.
Well, Dad, that's it's a wealth of knowledge. You've been in the trades for a long time, ever since high school, and you've passed me down your knowledge, things you've taught me, hand skills, being able to grow up in the country with the shop you have. I grew up doing a lot of woodwork here, metal work, high school and stuff like that. So I've been fortunate to have a role model like my dad, which ultimately why I got into the trades and built a career in the trades, becoming a lineman and things like that. And la-di-da-di-da, right? So some of you guys out there are not as fortunate as that, especially if you want to get into trades, and that's okay. But there's guys like me, there's guys out there who are willing to help, try to teach you what you need to do to try to help you with this podcast or with any other plethora of information on there, Facebook groups, all kinds of stuff out there you guys can find where people will and are willing to help. So any last pieces of word or advice for somebody?
Yeah, I guess I already said it, but just showing interest. I'm going to say most journeymen are going to be, as long as you show an interest to learn or willing to learn, willing to do the grunt work, they're going to treat you good.
Yeah.
You're going to get some hazing. That's just part of it.
That's part of it, yeah.
Just realize that's part of the hazing. And, I do it too. Our apprentices, these are older guys, a lot of them too. And I just, I tell them, hey, if we're not picking on you, then we don't like you.
Yep.
If we're not giving you a hard time, then we probably don't care for you.
That is true. That is very, very true for a lot of you guys out there who are apprentices or groundmen. If you're not actually getting trash talked to, and you're getting like a silent treatment, and like the journeymen are giving you the bare minimum words they have to tell you in a day, then you're actually probably, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Like if they're not talking crap to you and hazing you, like there's something going on. Like,
as journeymen, we do it to each other.
Yeah.
At least we do.
No,
it's like 100%. It's just part of it. It's all lighthearted.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets gets a little heated, but it's it is what it is. Work gets frustrating sometimes, and you get it out. Whatever, clear the air a little bit, but. Yeah, attitude's everything, I think, Just you got a good attitude, and maybe you're not super like mechanically inclined. I mean, I've seen some people, and they've done just fine, Just a good attitude, so you're willing to help them a little more if they have a good attitude, but if their attitude's bad, it's like, hey dude, I can let you sink right here.
Yeah.
You can sink your career. You got to do something else. So just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dad, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Very fun to be able to sit down with my dad for an hour to do this. Blue Collar Edu, we're here to expose, teach, educate you guys about blue collar career opportunities, how to get started in the skilled trades. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Share this with someone who, wants to become a pipe fitter, wants to get into a welding trade or a pipe trade. My dad's been in the trades for a long time, his whole life. He grew up around it. It's in his blood. Now it's in my blood. And now I'm on YouTube trying to help you guys. So, with all that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next episode.